Republican Congresswoman from Florida, Kat Cammack, who is joining us. Congresswoman, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on our program today. I want to start with this War Powers Resolution vote that was canceled by House leadership from your party. Democrats are saying this is cowardice. You should have just voted on this. What's your response to that?
Well, great to be with you. And I will say that a resolution is non-binding. So it's not particularly fair to say that this would have stopped the conflict in Iran. It was a non-binding resolution that they were pushing, and it's not a lawmaking exercise. And given the serious moment that we are facing, not just here in America, but globally, the geopolitics and the impacts that the closure of the Strait of Hormuz has had, we want to see actual resolution, not an exercise in which people are just looking for airtime. So I will encourage people to watch very carefully in June as we navigate towards a real solution in Iran and in the Strait.
Do you think Congress should pass a War Powers Resolution, should take back that power over President Trump's ability to wage war in Iran?
So President Trump is acting within his constitutional rights currently. If this were to escalate and we were to forward preposition additional assets that were beyond the scope of freedom of navigation operations, I think that Congress should be consulted. We have the constitutional right to that. But at this point, we have two different operations going. One, a phone ops to try to maintain some order within the Strait. Obviously, this has implications globally with 25% of the world's oil moving through that area. And Iran has been a terrible presence in the region, a bad actor who has attacked multiple foreign flagged vessels for the better part of 20 plus years in the Strait. So the United States is taking it upon ourselves to try to bring order in that area. But I wouldn't conflate what is happening with the terrorist regime in Iran and our operation there with the phone ops mission that we have there in the Strait.
One more question on Iran, Congresswoman. I just want to ask your colleague in the Senate, Roger Wicker, said it's time for the war to continue and said we must finish what we started. It is past time for action. Do you agree with that?
Well, I'll tell you this. When I graduated from the War College, the Naval War College, I thought back to what we had learned, and what we had been taught was you never plan for a war first. You plan for your exit strategy. That is typically more important than how you engage in the opening stages. And so how we exit this conflict is going to be something that we have to be exceptionally well thought through, very thoughtful about how we do it, who we engage with. And I would love to see some of our allies come alongside us instead of sitting on the sidelines.
Okay, Congresswoman, I also want to ask you about a bipartisan push that you're leading to address sexual misconduct allegations in Congress. Tell us a bit more about why you're doing this and what you're trying to achieve.
Well, clearly on Capitol Hill, we have a bipartisan problem of creeps stalking the halls of Congress. And so this requires a bipartisan solution. So I'm proud to team up with the Democratic Women's Caucus. And as chair of the Republican Women's Caucus, we're working to address this issue head on. This isn't going to be a group that studies an issue and issues a report 2 years from now. We are making real change immediately. So first, starting with giving additional resources and streamlining them for victims. Addressing the training that exists or lack thereof here on Capitol Hill. You've got a full spectrum of generations that may think something was okay 40 years ago, probably isn't okay today. And finally, I would say the culture of retaliation on Capitol Hill needs to end. So the big three things that we're tackling with this working group.
Would you describe this, Congresswoman, as a kind of Me Too moment for Capitol Hill?
It seems to be a bit of a 2.0 version of that, certainly, because everyone has known about these issues, but they have been kind of swept under the rug. And now you're starting to see, I know since we've announced this working group, I have had countless staffers and people formerly who have worked on the Hill come forward and say, you know, this happened to me. I was a victim. And at the time, I felt like I couldn't come forward because I would have lost my career. And so it really is a bit of an awakening here on Capitol Hill, not just for predators who are going after women, but for women who are also engaging in bad behavior. So it's time to clean up the act because accountability cannot begin and end with expulsions here on Capitol Hill. Otherwise, we really wouldn't have anybody left.
Okay, Congresswoman, really interesting to get your perspective. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good weekend.